Greetings, brave heroes. I'm Ash, and this is HeroQuest, a channel on which we explore dungeon crawlers and dungeon crawler adjacent materials. And this, heroes, is the BwodeCast, the weekly show which lately hasn't been so weekly because I've been messing around a bit with my own schedule, where we discuss these dungeon crawler and dungeon crawler adjacent topics. And this week, I wanted to get into my Discord, the BwodeCast question and answer section, and cast the question to the viewers about their own speculation. What is HeroQuest First Light, and what can we expect for the near future of HeroQuest? Bonus questions: what is Talisman Alliance, and what about Warhammer 40k? These questions, of course, are centered around the recent leak, and I would say legitimate leak based on the nature of how it was revealed and how it was taken down, of the sort of master list of Hasbro European article numbers. And if that term is brand new to you, if all of this is brand new to you, just about 30 seconds of background. Not that long ago, I covered a document that was shared with me, a PDF that was made visible, downloadable, linkable on a French website that contained a list of all of the product numbers, the UPCs essentially, or the GTINs, the barcode numbers, the unique signifiers that identify products out in the wild for movement within inventory systems or for purchases at point of sale systems at stores. And it went about as far back as 2018, I want to say 2019. It contained everything, all subsidiary products, everything as far as I could tell that Avalon Hill has released, including the HeroQuest Mythic Tier, Commander of the Guardian Knights. If the product existed and had a European article number attached to it, this document had it listed. Now, this didn't really imply anything special. After all, it was just a list of UPCs. Anybody could have gone and compiled this. The document was 1,200 pages long. I believe it was about 1,200. Maybe it was 1,020. It was over 1,000 pages long, however, with around 40 UPCs or EANs per page, and the descriptions for each assigned. And in that document, we got Jungles of Delthrak, which was the first official appearance, not an unofficial, not a rumor or a source, or I have it on good authority, or I have a connection somewhere. My brother's cousin's uncle works at Nintendo and also works at Avalon Hill. None of that. This was the first official appearance of Jungles of Delthrak, the HeroQuest upcoming expansion, in a Hasbro document. But we got a couple of other surprises there as well. We got HeroQuest First Light, and we got a couple of other things that Avalon Hill is working on that we know of, including Talisman, but the first appearance of a Talisman product that isn't the core game, Talisman Alliance. And we know it's not the core game because the core game had its own set of EANs and its own description was Talisman Core. So what are these things? We even got Warhammer 40k premium card game as a description from an upcoming product that's going to be released by Avalon Hill. I guess I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't jump the gun because, as I said in that video, just because a product has an EAN doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to guaranteed get a release. The Age of Annihilation Heroscape EANs were listed on there as well. Although, incidentally, that did get a release because it was taken by Renegade, although it wouldn't be that exact product. It was actually split up into a number of different products by Renegade, all of which look really, really cool. It looks like that was handled really well by Renegade. I'm proud of them for taking that. I'm proud of Hasbro and Avalon Hill for getting another maker involved and everybody making it work for the fans of Heroscape. But I pose this question: what is Talisman Alliance? What is Warhammer 40k premium card game? What is First Light? Could this be something mentioned long ago, materializing finally? A version of something that already exists? A crowdfund? A total flop? Is this the beginning of a beautiful potential Warhammer and HeroQuest friendship? Or could we really be whacking 40 kobolds or waking 40 kittens? Could the W40K mean something else? Now, I don't think that it does. That was just a really dumb joke. But the first person to come up with an answer was Rudolph 666, supporter of the channel, kind contributor, and he says, as I said in the other chat, I think First Light sounds like a beginning, a first of something, so I am thinking of a prequel with the first heroes, but it is a total guess, of course. Talisman I never had, but I will get this one. 40K? A card game that is a bit better to obtain than the disappearing legendary HeroQuest card game? At least it will be a game without minis. No way Games Workshop lends out 40K rides with mini making. Speculative. I can respect all that. Joe says, I suspect it's a Hero Collection release. Seems to fit the type of title. Cleric of the First Light I'm banking on would also seem to follow the pattern for other Hero Collection boxes. Clerics are popular homebrew, and some third parties are already cashing in on that with pseudo-quest products. So I really wouldn't be surprised to have a cleric. Light always kind of equates to good, and first is always supreme above all others. So basically, cleric of supreme good, really. They may dispense with cleric for religious undertones, but then I doubt it, as it is a class in D&D, and we've got rogue, warlock, bard, druid, monk, aside from paladin fighter, which I think the knight encapsulates. There's only ranger and sorcerer left, really. I suspect, as others did, we'll get a ranger in jungles of Delthrak. And by D&D standards, our wizard is really a sorcerer. Oh, people mentioned her artificer, but I doubt we'll see one of those. And technically the warlock is an artificer by the info snippet on her card, which is probably her wand thing. Anyways, HeroQuest, Hero Collection, Cleric of the First Light is my bet. Geek Gone Giddy says, just being Zargon's advocate, but perhaps First Light could also be a red herring for HeroQuest Advanced Quest, The Dark Company, or Crypt of Perpetual Darkness. After all, it's still the Year of the Dragon, and who knows, the marked locations of the Path of the Wandering Monk's scroll map has yet to be explained officially. Also, I'm being mindful of being wary of the Wilds location on that map. Liminal Sub said, my first thought in hearing First Light was that it could be a prequel quest pack from the time when Rogar, Durgan, Ladril, and Telor fought off Zargon. The opening text in the rulebook uses the same imagery of light and darkness, and Rogar with the Star of the West could be the first light, the first beacon of hope against the darkness. Or maybe it's because I've been homebrewing the same thing recently. Watch out, Quest Jam, here I come. Maybe we will finally get to fight Zargon? Mr. Big B said, late to the conversation, but for my 2 cents, I agree with the Hero Collection release of a cleric or paladin type of character. Hopefully it's something that ties in with Jungles of Delthrak or another upcoming expansion pack. With the release of the arena mode against the Ogre Horde, I could see more characters being released for that purpose. Could be yet another great reason to release similar monster packs, though I know that possibility is a long shot. The other possibility I thought was a new working title for the Wizard expansion, but I thought that had a working title already from the old notes. And that was the extent of all the comments that were weighed in this time in the BwodeCast Q&A section. So I would like to pick through and kind of give my answer to some of these and kind of give you my own thoughts on what these could be, what I think they are. I want to talk a little bit about that document that was released first, though, and the video in which I presented it. First of all, getting to the point. This isn't really important. This is really just me ranting more than anything. I actually did not share that video on social media. I've kind of been abstaining from sharing videos on other platforms like Facebook or the Old Inn or any place because I'm trying to work with the YouTube algorithm. And this BwodeCast, this podcast format, is a bit of an exception to that rule, but it's also experimental. But I kind of keep from linking stuff most of the time until several hours have passed, and then that's only if I can really be bothered. But another kind viewer did link that video on the Old Inn on the Facebook group, and there were quite a few comments. I say quite a few. There were probably only 9, and I think a couple of those were replies, so 6 or 7, that understandably, they were coming from people who wanted information about the headline, the title of the post, which was HeroQuest First Light. And they saw, there's a guy talking about it for 20 minutes. You can see the length of the video is around 20 minutes. And their response was basically, in so many words, man, get to the point. Can anybody sum up the information here? I don't want to listen to somebody talk about this for 20 minutes. And I get all that. I totally can agree. I get that. You don't want to click on a YouTube video because you need information, and somebody wants to just stretch the video time out by trying to hype you up when you were already interested enough to click on the video and saying things like, guys, you are not gonna believe what I found out today. Or if you thought you knew about blank, then just wait, because this is going to blow your mind. And then there you have all the stupid editing tricks, and it's very, very fake feeling. It feels so disingenuous. It's an immediate disconnect. And that's a trend that I really stay away from, because I don't do this to get attention or because I'm trying to make money. I mean, it would be great to do it as a living. I'm not going to lie. That would be amazing. But it's not me to have that weird salesman psychology kind of personality that so many people seem to try to have. And I'm not calling out any of the other creators that do any content with HeroQuest. None of these people do any. Most content creators that do anything with board games are pretty down to earth. There's a few of them that are really annoying, that are some of the bigger creators. They have great equipment and a great setup, but they just don't get to the point. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. And I don't mind saying that, because I don't want to follow that trend. And I've been kind of talking about that stuff now, wasting time, but I really just wanted to illustrate the kind of creator that I don't want to be. And there's another kind of creator that I don't want to be that we'll go over here a little later. But every single minute of the video that I released about that document was about that document. It wasn't necessarily about HeroQuest First Light. So those viewers who wanted to click on the video and thought the point was just for me to say, look, HeroQuest First Light is a thing. It's going to exist. It has a UPC or an EAN. That's the video, guys. Bye. They literally would have gotten no information from that. It was all in the title already. The video was about the document. It was about the EANs. It was about multiple things. And it would be highly remiss of me not to explain what EANs were, because there were going to be a lot of people that watched that video because of the hype around the HeroQuest expansion, which is good, who would have had no idea about the context, which is bad. And I don't know. If you know me, I really try to make sure the context is very clear whenever I talk about anything. I try to put in disclaimers. Anyways, that's just me ranting. The people that commented, I should have gotten to the point. Guys, the point was minute 1. So that is what it is. I mean, some folks were only interested in that thing, and I get it. That's fair. The channel, probably not for them. That video in particular, probably not for them. The one thing I did take away is I probably could use chapter markers on my videos, so I probably will be looking into chapter markers. YouTube is supposed to be doing that automatically for me. I don't think they have been. I need to look into why, but that's something I could get better at, and that was a takeaway that I had from that experience. All right, so getting to Talisman Alliance, because I can knock this one out pretty quick. Talisman Island actually honored me by commenting on a couple of my videos and even joining the Discord, which is really humbling to have somebody who you recognized a long time ago by way of me finding the FT toy box products from Games Workshop on their website. Really cool to have an association there. I think it's John from Talisman Island specifically. But he reminded me that the first expansion for Talisman was actually not a corner board. And I'm not sure if it was which edition he would be referring to, because I'm not knowledgeable about Talisman's releases and the timeline. The only thing that I really know about Talisman, or the only things that I know, is that it's gone through 4 editions, the 4th of which was revised. The 4th edition revised I have almost in its entirety from Fantasy Flight. I have the 3rd edition almost in its entirety. That's the classic Games Workshop edition with miniatures, plastic miniatures. And they all have a very heavy Warhammer HeroQuest aesthetic about them because they're Citadel miniatures. And that happens to be my favorite version as well, because of the feel of it, as well as the aesthetic and gameplay. I guess the aesthetic and the gameplay combined really make up the feel of a game. But that one feels the most fun and the coolest to play for me. I don't have the first and second editions of Talisman. I'm not sure if I would want them, but if I continue on this path of collecting all things Talisman, then it might be necessary for me to collect those editions as well, just because. I've also got the Steam game for Talisman, but it is so far very much not a fun thing to sit there and click and watch the CPU players go around the board, and that the feel is just gone. It is completely gone. But that one's based seemingly on 4th edition, which kind of also hurts it and the way it feels as well. But Talisman's 5th edition is going to be from Avalon Hill. It's going to have an entirely new feel because it's going to have a new aesthetic. It should have maybe some small changes in the rules here and there because Avalon Hill have shown that they're very, very good about making things kind of their own. And there have been very subtle rule changes with Talisman throughout its editions. But I didn't know that the first expansion for Talisman, other than probably 3rd edition, was not a corner of the board type of expansion. If you've never played Talisman, every edition has like a wealth of expansions, but the expansions traditionally come in the form of new sections for the board, and the gameplay board has been compared to Monopoly in that you go around the outer perimeter of the board at least a few times before you gain what is called a talisman, and you are able to get closer to the center of the board. There's another track on the inner part of the board, and then there's a track on the very innermost section of the board. It is a big effort to get through all 3 of these tracks and reach the crown of command, which is the objective of Talisman, and win the game. If you have the corner board expansions, you have additions to the corners of the board, which are tiles that are named like the city and the dungeon, and these corners go on the outside of the board, and you get to travel from that tile onto this new section of board. I'm probably explaining it very, very poorly, but every space in Talisman has a set of instructions on it. So it's not like a dungeon crawler like HeroQuest or Descent, where your tiles are there for the sake of movement and combat mobility. It's more that each tile has its own purpose, like in Monopoly, although I hate making that comparison. I don't like saying the word Monopoly on this channel unless I'm talking about the business element, the unethical. I don't like Monopoly. I don't like the board game. I'm sorry. Top Hat, Scotty Dog, get out of here with that. And I think that I was probably thinking of 3rd edition Talisman when I was comparing 5th edition, because 3rd edition's my favorite. It's got skulls everywhere. It's got the Citadel miniatures. It's got really almost cartoonish fantasy art. I love that stuff. I really love it. And it's right there in that 90s time period that I like the most. The era that's my favorite era from Games Workshop. And it had 3 expansions. It had an expansion with 2 of the corners of the board, another expansion with 2 more of the corners, so now you've got all 4 corners filled out, and then its 3rd expansion was an overlay for the center of the board that was actually a 3D tower, and the Dragon's Tower is really hard to get, but it is really, really cool. 4th edition Talisman has a lot more in expansions. 4th edition Talisman, revised 4th, has more sections of the board that go in between the corners, giving you a total of a 4th track to go around, if you're able to, if you're inclined, if you're wanting that additional challenge and the additional opportunities to get your hands on a talisman. And with the naming convention of the new Talisman expansion, I'm thinking Talisman Alliance, it's kind of tough to suss out exactly what this is. I don't think that it would be corners of the board. I kind of hope that the additional corners come in the base game. I know that's kind of too much to hope for because it's kind of missing out on the opportunity to make all these new sales if you can make these expansions and release them. But how cool would it be to have all of these previously available as expansions assets contained in the base game for the new edition? That would be so cool. Highly unlikely, but so cool. And Alliance could be new characters. It could be characters as well as a way to play the game. The game is typically played competitively You have 2 to 4 players that are playing against each other. Each one is trying to get their own talisman and get to the Crown of Command. And you can actually play versus other players by attacking them or doing bad things to them to get them to fall behind in their progress, lose money, lose magic, lose wounds, whatever the case may be. Maybe Talisman Alliance is a mode of play that comes with additional assets that facilitates a way for you to play the game cooperatively. I can tell you this much, it's a must-buy for me pretty much no matter what it is, although I will be very hesitant to praise them if they have an app that comes with the game, or if the game requires an app, that's going to be something that I have to think about before I purchase it, because I so far have not supported games that exclusively use apps to play. I do not believe in that business model, that structure. I think that that's a really, really poor way of doing things. It's cool if the app is optional, like with new edition of HeroQuest. It's really nice if the app is something you can download and have rather than have to rely on it staying on a server and getting updates and then getting killed. So eventually you can't use the app anymore, making the game unplayable. This would be the case of Mansions of Madness, I think. Yeah, the newest edition, second, I think, of Mansions of Madness. You have to use the app. So if you don't have access to the app, there's no game. There's literally just no game. You've got all these assets, and good luck figuring out where things go and how to play. But also, you've got no idea how the logic behind the enemy AI works, or what kind of variables they're working with. What are the limits of what this enemy can do, rather? Yeah, when it comes to DM-less sessions of games that are asymmetrical, like HeroQuest, having a deck of cards control what the enemy does is really the way to go. And other games have absolutely gotten this right. Descent is one such game, and the D&D Adventure System games have this mechanic, and it had to do well because there are 6 of those, plus 1 expansion. There are a lot of adventure system games that don't need a DM. So maybe Talisman Alliance is a way to play it. Maybe it will have additional characters. It is worth noting that in Talisman, classically, you have different alignments. You don't all have to be heroes at all. The hero and neutral and evil or chaos alignments are in Talisman so that you are able to choose different starting points and behave differently in response to different actions that are taken during the game. But you can absolutely be a villainous character in Talisman trying to get the Crown of Command so you can win the game. It doesn't really give you an advantage. Some characters are better than others because they have certain advantages, but these characters are also worse than others because they have certain disadvantages. But Alliance does seem to maybe suggest that these different alignments are coming together in a way. That's my guess for Talisman Alliance. Warhammer 40K. Warhammer 40K, I don't have a lot of exposure with Warhammer 40K. I did acquire a game recently that I will be unboxing on the channel very soon. That is probably going to be my first and only exposure to something that is Warhammer 40K related, other than Relic, which I've already shared that I have Relic, and it's a version of Talisman, ironically. But the 40K game is supposed to be a premium card game. I just hope that it's not a collectible trading card game. I don't disparage anybody for liking those or buying them or collecting them or enjoying them. I know that there's hundreds of thousands of people that play them. I don't like collectible trading card games. I actually don't like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Dragon Ball Super. I only collect Final Fantasy and Magic the Gathering, and I'm only collecting them because Final Fantasy, I just like the visuals on them. I just love having cards that have these graphics of these characters. But Magic the Gathering, I just scored a giant collection of Magic cards, and I only have these until I have built my decks that I think look really cool and are functional to some degree, and then I'm getting rid of the rest of them. It just is what it is. I don't really enjoy playing the game. I just think they're neat. Maybe I can learn to enjoy playing the game with my custom decks, though, you know? Maybe that's where the joy will be for me. But the 40K card game, if I had to speculate, I would say it's probably just a standalone game, highly experimental, business deal between Games Workshop and Avalon Hill, the beginnings of something potentially. If this goes really well, if they respect the Warhammer 40k property enough, and I can't imagine that they won't because it's Avalon Hill and they put a lot of respect into everything they do, I think that this could open the way for more collaborations. Not in the very near future, because we saw the list of EANs. We know what's coming in the near future. But in the medium or far future, I think finally there are people out there who have said, maybe Games Workshop and Avalon Hill can collaborate on a HeroQuest thing. I kind of see you now. Not that I couldn't before, but there were also people that, were pretty certain that HeroQuest could not do certain things because of Games Workshop. And advanced HeroQuest has always been a subject of debate, oddly enough. But I'm thinking that those kinds of collaborations are not out of the realm of possibility. I kind of agree that there's, not going to be minis, 40k minis for this premium card game because it's a card game. But I think that it's also not outside the realm of possibility that Avalon Hill could license a product from Games Workshop and also go into talks with them about producing miniatures. I just don't think that they would, though, because I think Games Workshop is going to stick with the Games Workshop miniatures. I think they're going to stick with the people that they have that are making the miniatures. Does that mean that we couldn't see quality Games Workshop Citadel miniatures in an Avalon Hill published product? Absolutely not. We could definitely see that. I know that there's a clause out there that's pertinent to Games Workshop licensing their stuff to third parties, and the language of that clause is something to the effect of, hey, we'll let you license our stuff, but you can't make minis that are as good as ours or better. This would be a great way around that. That's a subjective thought anyway. That's a very subjective clause. It would be very, very easy to make miniatures that were actually miniatures for the sake of being miniatures and say, oh, those are just inferior game pieces. I mean, it's clear that you have the superior miniature design, oh, almighty Games Workshop. I think that, the clause is just there. It's to discourage competition. I mean, but who really comes close to Citadel anyway? I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm excited to see it. I'll probably get it. All right. HeroQuest, Cleric of the First Light. I'm going to agree with that one. I think it's probably going to be a character expansion. I really like Liminal Sub's idea that this could be a sort of prequel pack. Like either an expansion or an entirely new edition of HeroQuest that is set in older times. And we do actually fight Zargon in it, just an earlier version of Zargon, a younger one. This could be the expansion or the story in which Avalon Hill gives Zargon a name, a sort of pre-chaos name, and that could be a Morcar. It would be so nerd-tastic cool to see references to this stuff. But perhaps our players would be playing as the first heroes. Perhaps it could come with 4 brand new heroes, not just one or a male and female version of one type of hero, but 4 or maybe even 8. Hell, maybe First Light would actually have the 4 original heroes that would have faced off against Zargon in this hypothetical origin story, but they are actually the mythic tier alternate gender sculpts. And that's how Avalon Hill re-releases the mythic alt gender sculpts. That kind of turns Rogar into a lady. So that's probably not super likely. But I mean, you know what? It wouldn't bother me one bit. Rogar is a mighty barbarian, but who says it's not a female? I mean, it might actually refer to Rogar as a he somewhere in the quest text. I'm not gonna pull that out and look now, but it's just a thought. Actually, Telor is pretty explicitly a male wizard, so I guess that would not work actually, because the female wizard sculpt, which by the way is a pretty uninspired sculpt. Your barbarian and your elf are really the most impactful sculpts out of the mythic tier alt genders, I think. I don't think the other ones are really that interesting. I do really like the barbarian. Okay, so maybe not a mythic alt gender release with that, but you never know. Not if you could do it. You could do it. It just wouldn't be the original heroes, or maybe it would be, but it wouldn't be Talor and Rogar and Durgan and Ladril. They would be the NPCs who were there helping your group as a fledgling group of heroes who are assisting them in taking on the darkness. Actually, you could do it that way. You could absolutely do it that way. Then you'd have 8 hero miniatures. Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. First Light, though, is likely to be a character pack. I would say also Cleric. I think it'd be pretty hilarious if it was a Paladin, because if it was a Paladin with a shield and everything, but they still had the mace, then they might make for a pretty interesting tank. But I mean, I guess it doesn't matter what the name or the title of the hero is, Paladin or Cleric. It could be a tanky kind of hero either way, who's just able to heal. Probably not somebody that you need to protect and keep out of the way, like my own homebrew Cleric. My own Cleric has 4 body points and is able to heal unlimitedly, but you have to attack the other heroes to do it, basically. You have to roll the attack dice, and they have to lose as far as defense. And instead of damaging them, you actually heal them for the amount of skulls that get through. You have a couple of spells that are finite that will be more immediate, more surefire heals, because it is a cleric after all. But it's balanced in that the stronger the hero is, the more armor they're wearing and everything, the harder it is to heal them. Because, the harder it is to damage them. That probably shouldn't be how it is in lore. That's just how it is mechanically. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about was responsibility of a content creator, which I'm not actually going to go into what I think content creator responsibilities are. You sign up with a platform like YouTube, you understand what you're getting into, you understand what you can and can't do if you read those rules, and you absolutely should read rules if you're going to sign up with something and sign a contract. But one of the things that went through my mind as I was recording the video about the EANs was I'm taking something and sharing it. And I absolutely would not have done that if the thing that was being shared to me was being shared either in confidence or if I had signed anything to kind of make sure that it stayed under wraps and secret. But since this link was publicly accessible and had been publicly accessed by a number of people, I went ahead and did a video on it because in my mind, even if I hadn't, people were going to find out about it anyway. So I was really just doing what I wanted, which was to selfishly kind of get this attention out there, but also I wanted to apply my explanation and my disclaimers about the EANs and, have people notice that and make sure they saw that this list was ordered by date. So of course you were going to see things on there like the Commander of the Guardian Knights, limited expansion, however they worded that, and its EAN. And it didn't mean that it was going to come out soon. It was going to be re-released or whatever. Sure enough, within the next couple of days, I found a post on the Old Inn Facebook group. Somebody had found that line, that registry in the list, and they had said, well, I see a few things on here. I'm paraphrasing. I promise you I'm not mocking. I'm just trying to get the words out. I see a few things on here. There's First Light, and there's the Commander of the Guardian Knights. I imagine that they're going to re-release it because of that whole debacle with it being limited and so on. That would be valid speculation, but that's not why the EAN was there in that registry. The registration was there because this is a list of products that went far back, and that includes and encapsulates the Commander of the Guardian Knights release. It does not in any way infer, imply, or suggest that it's going to get some kind of re-release. And this kind of speculation, when it's shared publicly like that without the context, it provides people a chance to get their hopes up and then get angry when those hopes are not met because they were ignorant to begin with. They were not knowledgeable of the context. They might say things like, well, gee, I thought this was supposed to re-release, but evidently it didn't. I guess somebody's incompetent. I don't know. There's been all kinds of weird negative things said, accusations and claims made because of stuff just like this that people didn't understand. And that's why that video took 20 minutes to explain, because I wanted to get through a lot of that information in a way such that nobody would misconstrue it. And the person who found that Commander of the Guardian Knights, it wasn't a comment on my video. It wasn't anything that, they got from me. But that was just something that I thought was worth noting. It's something I wanted to bring up. There are a lot of content creators that do things on purpose. They are knowledgeable that there could be bad consequences for other people. I really don't think that my video got anybody punished because, like I said, this PDF has already been downloaded. It's already been shared. It doesn't have an active link anymore. You can't get to it on that French website by the link, but it's out there now. It's the internet. The PDF is permanently in existence and it won't be deleted or made gone. So if anybody got in trouble who was with the French company for putting that listing of products up there and not being able to hide it behind sort of encryption or password protection, they got in trouble because the EANs were able to be accessed, then I don't necessarily feel like I would have caused that. I just think I probably accelerated whatever issue was already going to happen. And hopefully I didn't accelerate anything. Hopefully nobody got in trouble. Hopefully it was just a phone call and somebody was like, hey, go ahead and move that. That was a mistake. Maybe they were already cognizant of it and it was going to get moved regardless. It could all just be copium. Maybe I got like 6 people fired. That's not funny. But I'd never want to be the kind of content creator who does things knowing that it will hurt other people. I don't want to make any content that damages anybody or damages anybody's reputation. Even the people that have DM'd me and have said weirdly, like random stranger awful things, I'll never know if it was because of a video that I made or if it's because I have a video at all. I've never wanted to take that and put it out and be like, look at this person, shame them. Because you never know. You never know if somebody's account is just compromised. There's people I really don't agree with, but I don't call them out. And when they comment on my videos, I just let them go because their opinions are valid, whether or not I agree with them. I might try to reinforce points that I make later in other videos when I kind of have more of a solid reasoning or when I'm a little more sure in my logic, but it's not to call out other people or make them think twice or anything. It's just kind of saying, well, this is why I think the way I do. And I do genuinely hope that the video that I made about the EANs did not harm anyone. All right, guys, I think that's about it for this exciting episode of the BwodeCast. If you have any comments, concerns, suggestions, questions, or complaints, please throw them down below. And if you're listening to this on a platform that isn't YouTube, you can go find my channel, HeroQuest, on YouTube. You'll find this broadcast was published the same day as wherever you're hearing it. If you'd like to hear the BwodeCast on another platform of your choice, please reach out so I can see how to go about getting it on that platform. And I will see you all in the next episode. I would like to thank all of my patrons for helping me make this channel a reality, and a fantastic day to all of you. Goodbye for now. Bye.